Hey, it is 12 noon on Friday, which means it's time for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Every Friday we come to you live to help you mastermind, grow, and jumpstart your real estate business. And boy, do we have a great episode for you today. We're talking about building your client base. And this is huge if you want to do more than just one or two transactions in the real estate industry. So we're going to be talking about how to build your client base and escalate that to the level. Essentially, we're trying to fill your pipeline so that way you don't have to work to continuously be restocking that pipeline. Now, it's really a never-ending effort, but in theory, when you get big enough and you're satisfied with the amount of pipeline, you could develop some really great recurring business. And this is even a retirement strategy if you're getting into real estate and you want to go ahead and sell off your client base or maintain your license and just sell off referrals for each of your clients whenever they want to come back and do some business with you. It's a really great strategy. It's essential. And this is really more the business side of this. And it's the question of whether or not a real estate is career or it's a business. Whether or not you're starting a career, you're starting a business. And really, it's both. When you're trading your time for money, that's more the career side of things. But when you're building a system and you're building a database, like we're talking about today, and you're building this machine basically that effectively pumps out money with some input on your part, that's more when you're on the business side of things. So we want to talk about how to enhance really both of these. And you guys have heard me talk all the time about prospecting and farming and all kinds of stuff like that. But the reality of it is people aren't buying and selling their house every single day. People don't move every day. National Association of Realtors says they move every 5 to 7 years. So when you're out there prospecting, you might strike gold right there meeting somebody. You walk up to somebody and, hey, yeah, I was actually thinking about selling my home. Why don't you come on and stop by? You might strike gold right there. But you might end up having an interaction where they say, oh, you know what? I'm not ready to buy my house yet. But again, going back to the NAR, they say on average every 5 to 7 years they're gonna. So who knows? Maybe they're close to that 5 years. Maybe they just moved into their home. So maybe it is going to be 5, 7 years out before they need to move again. But if you're planning on building a lifelong business, and even if you're not planning on building a lifelong business, maybe this is a stepping stone for something else it is that you want to do, I wouldn't just kind of give this stuff up because like I said, you could use the retirement strategy and just have your database and then just sell off the referrals to other agents, which is a great thing that you could do. So that's the name of the game. We're talking about all different ways to build your client base. We're going to be talking about emails, text messages, phone, social media, direct mail, all kinds of different ways to make sure that you stay in touch with clients. And you might be asking which one of these is the best. They're all the best. It's really the combination strategy you're using across all of these to really make sure that you're full circle and giving everything it is that you have to your clients. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we get into any more of this stuff, let's talk about why we do this show. This show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. And we do it every Friday to help our students grow and enhance and jumpstart their real estate business. We know that real estate can be a little bit tricky. There's a lot that you need to know. It's really a knowledge game that we're dealing with here. You learn a lot getting your license as far as how the industry is structured, the different rules and laws and stuff. You absolutely need to know the foundation, but you need to build on that foundation if you want to have a house. Real estate pun intended there. So if you're thinking about starting or enhancing your real estate career, check us out, Tampa School of Real Estate, www.tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or give us a call at 813-928-0106. Again, that's 813-928-0106. So let's talk about our first form of prospecting, or following up with people with your prospecting. And for any of you guys that are tuning in here, I do have the chats loaded up for both YouTube and Facebook. So I want to hear from you guys. If there's something it is that you do to follow up with your clients, I want to hear about it. If you're willing to share your secret sauce with us. I know a lot of agents are like, oh no, I'm not letting you know what I'm doing behind the scenes. But most agents, they know it really takes a lot of work for a lot of the stuff, and there's not really too many secrets. I mean, yes, this is knowledge that you need to seek out, but there's a lot of things that really aren't too much of a secret sauce. Even McDonald's and all these other people, they know the Big Mac sauce is just mayonnaise and ketchup or some combination of that, maybe a couple spices you throw in there. These are all simple elements that we're going to be breaking down in here. But if you guys have something in particular that works, I want to hear from you guys. And of course, if you have questions on any of these topics as we go through them, send them in, because I love answering questions for you guys to really make sure that you understand what it is that we're talking about. So ultimately, the purpose why we're doing this is so that every time we have an interaction with somebody, we're not just saying, okay, yes, I get business, or throwing it away. You don't want to just either, oh, I got business, or say, oh, you know, that didn't get me any immediate business. I know we live in an instant gratification world, and instant gratification is great. When you'll never be more excited when you run into somebody that finally says, when you're meeting people, oh yeah, I do need to sell my house, and you just see your eyes light up, and like, oh yes, and you start like talking about real estate, and you get an appointment, and that's a very exciting time. Not so exciting when people say, oh, you know what, I'm not really thinking about buying a house, or I just bought a house, or you know, I really like our neighborhood, we're not really thinking about moving, and so on and so forth. And the reality is, that's what, even if people are thinking about buying and selling their house, that's typically the interaction that you're going to have. And you need to play that off, and not really play it off, but illustrate the point that they're not alone. You're like, oh yeah, you know, I get that all the time. I mean, you know, people only sell their house every 5 to 7 years, but what I can give you is all kinds of great information just to keep you up to date, so when you do start thinking about it down the road, you'll have the information that you need, and you'll be ready to pull the trigger when the market is hot, when the timing is right. Or maybe they're thinking about buying as opposed to renting once they have enough down payment saved up, or whatever it is that's personal to them. Though a lot of this stuff, the more personal that you make it, the more effective it's going to actually be. So you want to try to personalize this as much as you can. So like I said, we want to take those people that aren't ready to buy or sell today, they're not ready to do a deal today, and we want to transform them into somebody that's ready to do a deal down the road. But it takes a lot of work. If we're talking about hot leads versus cold leads, these are cold leads. Most of your leads that you're going to get when you're just out there meeting people and talking to people and networking, those are going to be cold leads. Everyone that you're advertising to, for the most part, is going to be a cold lead when you adopt a farm area. And that's something that costs money and time to do, to have some sort of farm area. But those are mostly cold leads. Yes, you'll stumble upon a hot lead every now and then. You'll find some gold. You'll find that diamond in the rough. But eventually, they're all going to turn into diamonds. Enough pressure and enough time, everything turns into diamonds. So that's what we're focusing on today, how we could stay in touch, how we could stay top of mind. Now, if you've watched the farming episode of State of Real Estate, you heard me mention probably 17 times how many times it is that you have to stay in front of these people, how many impressions it is that you have to make to actually get some retention with your target market, with the people you're trying to market to. And that number's 7 to 9 times. It takes 7 to 9 times just for them to start to recognize you. And you think of all the advertisements you see out and about, and that becomes a reality. I mean, how often do you remember an advertisement? Even if you do remember the advertisement, do you remember the phone number? Do you even remember the name? Maybe you're remembering the color of the advertisement, whether it's a billboard or something you saw online, or vaguely what it does. But people, due to the bombardment that we get from advertising, people write this off. But repetition is the father of learning, or the mother of learning, whatever you want to call it, the parent of learning. You get enough repetition, and the learning is just going to come. They're going to learn who it is that you are. And that's what you want them to know. You want them to have knowledge of your business and your expertise and your skills. So when they're ready to pull the trigger, to do a deal, to buy their house, to sell their house, to invest in property, you're the one that they're thinking of when they think of real estate. That's your ultimate goal. You want to become a household name with these people. And that takes a lot of work, turning them from a cold lead into a warm lead. And now the way you do this is you build a client base. The client base, these are the people that aren't doing business with you today, but they may be doing business with you tomorrow, next month, in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. They're going to be doing business with you down the road. And that's what you want to focus on as far as making sure that you're not going to have the up and downs. Anything sales related, especially when it's sales, just like real estate, is for the most part commission only. That's where you could have great months and terrible months. They could be one after another. What happens with a lot of agents is they usually start getting wrapped up in how busy they are working in the business, They forget about working on the business. They forget about restocking the pipeline. So they'll have a phenomenal month. They might have their best month ever, but if they're not focusing on continue to prospecting, continue to stay in contact with their client base, the next month is just going to drop right off. And that happens in real world. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching that are in the real estate industry that have had a great month. If you followed that up and you've stayed great, congratulations to you. But I'm sure you've had this before where you've had a great month and then maybe a not so hot month. Maybe it's the market, maybe it's some outside external circumstance that you can't control. But if you adapt, and really when you have these outside circumstances, it just means that you need to work that much harder to keep up at the same rate. So it's really not a question of what's going on in the market. It's the question of how hard you have to work to keep up with what's going on in the market. Because if you put in extra work, if you put in extra time, if you put in extra effort, if you put in extra money when the market starts to decline, other agents are just going to fall off. Other agents, other realtors, other professionals aren't going to be willing to put in that extra investment of their time, money, and effort. And so if the market starts to go down, they'll fall off. It's crazy. So we're in the real estate education field, and we help a lot of people get real estate licenses. And we see when the market goes up and down, when the market's up, everybody wants a real estate license. Market goes down, there's a slower demand for real estate licenses. But when the market goes down, and we started at the beginning of one of the worst real estate recessions in one of the hardest hit markets in the United States, in Tampa, Florida. There were 3 markets that were very hard hit during the real estate recession: Tampa, Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Those were some of the markets that had the worst, where they had the floor basically fall out from underneath them. The sinkholes that we have in Florida, that's what happened to the Tampa real estate market. But you work that much harder. I've met tons of agents as well that have stayed in the real estate industry afterwards. And they were like, all right, we're gonna have to buckle down. We're gonna have to work harder. It's not gonna be easy street anymore. So if you're willing to buckle down and continue to grow and develop yourself and grow and develop your business as well, usually if you do one, the other follows right along with it. But the key is focusing on working on building your business rather than working so much in your business. Now, if you don't work in your business and you don't have anybody to work in your business for you, you're not going to have any business. So don't get me wrong there. You definitely still need to work in your business, but you also need to put in that extra time, the extra credit, the extra work, the extra money to work on your business rather than just working in your business. And that part of this working on your business, and really this is a way you can kind of distinguish these two different tasks, whether it's something you're working in your business, the career side, or you're working on your business, the business side. When you're working on your business, this isn't stuff that's going to generate business today. It might make you more efficient, it might generate business down the road, but that's not going to get money in your pocket. It's working in your business or having somebody, if you're to the point where you can have somebody working in your business, that's when you're able to actually invest a little bit more and grow that side. So when we come back from this quick commercial break, we're going to talk about emailing, because emailing is one of the easiest, most automatic ways to stay in touch with your client base. Now, it's not always the most effective, so we're going to be talking about text messages, we're going to be talking about phone calls, we're going to be talking about social media, we're going to be talking about direct mail. And while we're on the break, if you guys don't want to watch the commercials, tell us what it is that you've done to help grow and develop your business, or also tell us what questions you have of specifically. If you're asking about certain platforms and programs you could use, if I have any sort of insight into these, I'll try to help you guys out. But stay with us. I'm John Carissimo, and you're watching State of Real Estate.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment.
Hey, I'm John Carissimo, and I'm here to tell you today about Ask the Instructor. This is every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm going to be live answering your questions, so tune in. You can get on Facebook, on facebook.com/Tampa School, youtube.com/Tampa School, or also on our Success Center, tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success. You'll find those links in the description for this video. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm John Carissimo, and I look forward to answering your questions.
After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to State of Real Estate. So today we're talking about building your client base. Now, before the break, we were talking all about what are the key things that you need to, or the reasons why you need to be doing this to stay in touch with people. Because again, people only buy on average, according to the National Association of Realtors, every 5 to 7 years. So if you're going out meeting people, that's great. If you're networking and all these other things in marketing, that's great. But you have to remember, they're probably not going to be ready to buy today. Most of the time, they're not ready to buy or sell today, or not even ready to think about buying or selling today. But everyone at some point in their life is going to need a real estate professional. I don't care even if they're renters. I mean, there's tons of agents that specialize in being rental agents. And yes, there's less money in that as opposed to the sales side of things, but that doesn't mean you should neglect the client base. You definitely need to be doing everything you can so they remember your face, your name, your brand, your logo, and everything it is that you want them to remember. So we're going to be talking now about email, because email, this is one of the easiest, most automatic ways to stay in touch with your past clients. And the reason why I say easy and automatic, if you haven't used any of the tools that are online, like MailChimp or Weber or iContact or Constant Contact or MailJet or all of these different services that are available online to stay in touch with clients, and those are just email alone. There's all kinds of CRM and sales platforms and so on and so forth that you could invest in that do this as well. But if you haven't used one of those and you only send your emails just from Gmail or just from your whatever email address or from your Mac app or your Windows Mail or Outlook or whatever, anything like that, you're losing out on so many features it has, especially when you're trying to send out to an email list. And so essentially what you want to do is grow your list of potential clients. And usually most email systems, at least all the ones that I've worked with, they're usually list-based. So you have these different lists for different objectives or different types of people. So you might have some that are potential buyers, or maybe they're renters and they're maybe thinking about turning into buyers. Maybe they're sellers and they're thinking about selling, or maybe they're just an owner. We won't even call them a seller. They're just an owner of property and they might want to sell down the road. Or maybe there's somebody you met at a certain function. Maybe you're part of a certain club, or maybe somebody you met at your gym or something along those lines. The more they call this segmentation. So segmentation is kind of specializing your list towards the people it is that you're sending to. So like I said, you could create as many lists as you want for all these different categories. Now the key thing here, you don't want to go overboard because that's just too much for you to have the follow through to be effective. I mean, if you could grow it to that point, that's great. But you want to focus on some key categories. So what is it that and we got to reverse engineer this a little bit. What is it that you're doing for prospecting? Maybe it's you're doing some sort of those like little events, the farmers markets and things like that. Maybe you're setting up a tent there. And that's a great place to kind of meet people and talk to people. And especially if you have some sort of giveaway, you can entice them into coming over. And hey, come on, check me out. We got the free whatever this thing is. But when you have that chance to talk to people, you want to try to get their contact information. And now, yes, this is difficult because not everybody wants to give out their email address. We live in a very spam type of world. But look, let me clear the air with spam. Spam is not spam if it's permission-based. And most of these email systems know that, and they won't let you send email to people that you don't have their permission to. And it makes it very easy for them to unsubscribe and remove themselves. So if you could go out and buy lists of emails and things like that, but those tend to be very ineffective. In general, the open rate of email, just the open rate, just whether or not people are opening on your message, and not necessarily clicking on it or anything like that, the average, I think, is somewhere around like 15%. So we'll keep that number in mind because we're going to talk about this with the strategy a little bit more and how you could work this in here. But not everybody always opens every single email it is that you send them. So if you're just relying on the one email that you're sending out from your Gmail email address, that John buys houses at gmail.com or John helps you sell your house at gmail.com or whatever your address is, or it doesn't even have to be Gmail, any of these email services. But if you're just sending out one-off messages and expecting you to be the follow-up, again, that's working in your business. And now this is something that's very easy to automate. And this doesn't even require any sort of employees or people working on this. You build it once, And then you just have to keep feeding it emails. You keep feeding it emails, and it automatically goes and sends these emails to all the people on your list. There's different ways you could send. You could send a one-off campaign, which these one-off type of emails that you're sending to your entire list, they're great if, let's say, you're in the Tampa market and we had Gasparilla going on. So maybe you're sending out some Gasparilla-related emails. And yes, these emails don't always have to be about real estate. Because if all you do is send them real estate emails and real estate information, they're going to get bored and they're going to stop opening your emails. If they really don't like it, they're going to unsubscribe from your emails and they're not going to like what it is that you're saying. They'll just say, oh, unsubscribe. They make it really easy to unsubscribe now. Gmail's got the button right up at the top. Doesn't matter what you do to try to hide that button down at the bottom in the footer text and whatnot. Gmail puts that right up at the top of the email so they can just click on that. And there's auto unsubscribe apps and all kinds of things like that. So if people don't like what you're saying, it's very easy for them to remove themselves from your list, and you're never able to email them through that same list again. There's some ways around that you can play around with it. But the key thing here is that you want to focus on having good information. Now, you do want to work in some real estate information. You do want to work in stuff about real estate because you want them to remember that you are a real estate professional, but maybe how this real world stuff ties into the real estate stuff. Maybe you're sending out a Gasparilla email and you're talking about some of the homes on Bayshore. Check out this home. They just sold for this amount. Too bad they sold it right before Gasparilla. They would have had front row seats. Or maybe they got sick of Gasparilla, so they went and sold. This couple was so sick of Gasparilla, they sold their home. So some of the clickbaity type of stuff that you see, the headlines that draw people's attention, and you could tie real estate into that. And then, you could even do stuff that's not per se real estate related, but still maybe house related, like home improvement tips or things along the lines of like gardening tips or cooking tips or whatever it is that maybe you have some sort of side passion about, because everyone I've ever met in real estate, as dedicated as they may be to real estate, they always have something else that they're maybe passionate about as well. Maybe it's golf, maybe it's cooking, maybe it's woodwork, like do-it-yourself type of building stuff and all kinds of stuff like that. So you want to tap in to your inner passions that don't tie directly into real estate, but maybe you could tie them in a little bit, or at the very least have at the end your name, John Carissimo Realtor, or something along like that. So they just keep remembering seeing that. And in the from name, John Carissimo Realtor. So they keep seeing that over and over again. Because yes, it takes 7 to 9 times just for them to remember who it is that you are. But if you want them to, even once they start to understand who it is that you are, you want them to remember that indefinitely. And people forget stuff. If you don't use it, you lose it. The whole idea of with memory, if you don't use it, you lose it. If people aren't remembering who it is that you are, if you're not staying in touch and following up over and over and over and over consistently with them, they're going to forget who it is that you are. And some other great things you could do as far as email goes. You could send out stuff like Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas if you're feeling a little bold. Yes, I have to say that. You're bold to send out Merry Christmas stuff in this age, apparently. But whatever it is that maybe you're passionate about. Again, maybe you don't want to try to make everyone happy, because you're not always going to make everyone happy. Don't freak out when you start to get people unsubscribing, because all these little email systems will let you see whether or not people are opening your message, whether or not they're clicking on them, whether or not they're unsubscribing or anything like that. You'll see that, and don't freak out. If you have 1,000 people signed up and one person unsubscribes every email that you send out, that's going to happen. You just got to keep restocking your email list, keep getting more people in there. You can send out stuff, like I said, about holidays. There's like a holiday every month. Like every day of the year is like National this day or National that day. And I'm not saying send out emails every single day, because you want these people to stay in touch with them ultimately 5 to 7 years in most cases, because again, that's the average of how often people buy and sell their homes. So you want to stay in touch with them every 5 to 7 years, or for 5 to 7 years, and much longer than that. So you got to pace yourself. There's both sides of this argument. Yes, you want to still send out enough emails so you remain relevant, so it's not the 1 week that you're not sending them emails. They're like, oh, I need to sell my house, and they forgot about you because you didn't send them an email that week. If you're doing your job right and you're being consistent and you're continually sending them information, my recommendation would probably be bi-weekly. Usually monthly is not enough, and I'd even be so bold to say you'd probably be fine doing it weekly if you really have great content. And that's the key thing. You have to have content it is that they want. If the content that you're sending out isn't content that they could care about, then you definitely don't want to send that every week. You don't even probably send that bi-weekly. That's maybe where you fall more on the monthly side and just following up with them once a month. But the reason why I'm more about the frequency of this is, again, going back to the open rates. 15% of people, only 15% of emails are opened. Only 15% of emails. So out of every 100 emails, probably out of 1,000 emails that some people get, so people sometimes get 1,000 emails a day, that would mean that they're opening 150 emails. And if they're getting 1,000 emails a day, I don't think they're opening 150 emails. Those are the people where it's even less than that, because that average number means, yes, there are some people, maybe people only get 10 emails a day. And if you're lucky enough to be one of them, they're probably going to open your emails consistently. So that's up on the higher range of the average. But also what's dragging down that number are the people that get thousands of emails a day and maybe open up 10 or 20 emails out of those thousands that they get. And so that's what you have to keep in mind, is your emails aren't always going to be open. And that's why I'm such a big advocate of using one of these email systems that tracks this information for you, because when it tracks this information, it's going to be telling you whether or not people are opening your emails. And you can tell how effective your message is, especially if you have some sort of call to action in your email where it has, hey, click here to see the latest homes in your neighborhood, or click here to see what your home is worth this month, or something along those lines. You could tell how effective that's being, because you could see the percentage of people that are actually clicking on that. So it's really important to track your results, and email is one of the most automatic and most trackable ways of doing this, because it does so much of this for you, which is really alleviates a lot of burden for you, especially when you're just a one-man show or one-woman show, and you're not only trying to grow your real estate business, but also work in your real estate business to make sure that you keep getting paid, because that's important as well. But email is definitely a must. You need to be having emails going out. That's one of the first things. When you're looking to grow your business, an email database is one of the first things, because a lot of these systems, they're available for free. You could even set up automations. Now, they usually make you pay for the automation or pay once you have so many contacts, but you could get out there today with one of these systems and get started for free and get in there and start building your email database. And that's something you need to do. If you do not have an email database and you're in real estate or you're in any sort of business, you need to have an email database to stay in touch with these people. So make sure you have that set up. Now, when we come back after this next break, we're going to go ahead and talk about texting. We're going to be talking about how you could use the phone to follow up with people. Now, this is going to be where we're getting into a little bit more personalized territory. So it can be more effective, but you do have to be careful using text messages or phone to stay in touch with people, because that's where they could get annoyed a lot quicker than the emails. Everybody's used to spam emails, and as much as people like to be, or they're used to telemarketing, they're really not quite to the point of where they're being bombarded with text messages. But text messages are very effective, so stay with us after the break. We're going to be talking about how you could use that in your business. I'm John Carissimo. You're watching State of Real Estate.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment. Need help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career, but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106. That's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to State of Real Estate. I'm John Chrismo, and the show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here on every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time to help you grow, enhance, or jumpstart your real estate career. And today we've got a great episode for you about building your client base, an essential to your long-term success in real estate. First segment, we are talking about why you need to do this when you're prospecting and you're meeting people. Not everyone's ready to buy or sell or even think about it today, but that doesn't mean they won't be tomorrow or down the road. So you want to stay in touch with everyone it is that you meet. Next break, we went and talked about emailing. And email, it's one of the most automatic, one of the easiest ways to add that and implement that in your business. And it's very cost effective because you're not paying postage like you would sending out some sort of direct mail or anything like that. Now, the downside of that is you're not the only business, you're not the only marketer that's out there utilizing this most often free or if not very low cost type of system to stay in touch with people. But it has so many tools and so much in there to track this and know whether or not your message is being effective. It's really a must-have. So definitely have some sort of email automation system. But now we're going to talk about things that are going to be a little bit more personalized. They get a little bit higher response rates. And these are the things that are a little bit harder to automate, almost impossible to automate to an extent, but there are some different tricky ways you get out there and do that with text messages and emails. So that's what we're talking about now, is how to follow up and build your client base through text messages and emails. And yes, this does take a little bit more time and effort on your part. But so we talked about emails. So emails, stay with me here. Emails, 15% open rates. So 15% on average of your emails get opened. If even 15%. If your emails suck, it's going to be way less than 15% that ends up getting opened. Text messages. How many text messages do you think are opened? Think about your text messages, and you might be OCD, and you might not have any of your text messages unopened. And the statistic is, last time I checked, 97%. 97% of text messages get opened, as opposed to 15% of emails. So if you ask me, that's worth the time and effort to every now and then send a text out to your clients. And it might be easier. Now, this depends on the situation. It might be easier to get somebody's phone number as opposed to their email. They might be a little bit more hesitant about giving out their email because they don't want to get spammed or something along those lines. But if it's their phone number, they're a little bit maybe more comfortable. Again, this does depend on the situation. But if you get both, because again, there's no one best strategy for staying in touch with your client base and making sure you maximize your client base. There's multiple strategies that you need to use. One strategy alone isn't going to do it. Because, I mean, somebody might be very great about reading their emails, but maybe they don't. There's the people out there that maybe drive you crazy, where you see they have like 200 unread text messages. Now, text messages, like I said, on average, 97% of them get opened. So it's really a gold mine if you use it effectively. Because you get people mad really quick sending them text messages that are just stuff that's more marketing, that doesn't seem specialized to them, that's not individualized to them. That's the key thing with text messages, as well as the phone call side of things. I mean, the phone call side of things is pretty obvious. If you get some sort of pre-recorded robocall where they're saying, hey, this is John Chrismo just reminding you that I'm a realtor and I want to sell your house. Give me a call today. And maybe you could be a little bit more creative than that. But these pre-recorded calls, people are looking at you as just some sort of business that wants to take their money. But if you're giving them a personalized text message or a personalized phone call, that's worth so much more. So yes, it does take more time to do these types of things, to stay in touch with people via text messages and phone calls, but it will convert so much better than you have with emails. That doesn't mean don't do emails. Definitely do emails, and make sure you have that worked in, because like I said, you get started with that for free and it's automatic and it gives you great insights into how this stuff is working. If you're not good at reading body language or reading what between the lines of what people are saying, you're not going to get good feedback at all from your in-person or phone call or anything like that. But emails, the numbers don't lie for how many people open your emails or click on your emails or any of these statistics it does that track in there. So for text messages, some things you can do out to keep it personalized and keep it to something where it's not, where you're not going to come off as a salesperson, you're going to come across as a person. And you definitely want to do a lot less frequency with text messages as opposed to emails. Like I said, with emails, if you've got good content and you can keep providing good content, you can send out emails once a week, and I don't think many people would have a problem with that. Yes, you are going to get some unsubscribes, but That's fine, because most of those messages aren't even going to get opened anyways. But text messages, this is a lot more personal. So yes, it does have the potential for a lot higher impact, but it could go either way. It could be great or it could be devastating. There's a lot of rules regarding text messages. So I want to make that disclaimer with this. Go out and make sure you're not violating any telemarketing rules or anything like that anytime you're using the phone. Full disclosure there. So that way you guys don't sue me over any of this stuff. You don't do anything illegal. This is me telling you that right now. But now back into what's useful. These text messages, what you could send out are just things to kind of like stay in touch with them. So maybe you're holding an open house and you got their phone number from the open house. But however you go about doing that, because there's a lot of different tricks you could use, and not necessarily tricks, just ways, I would say, methods of obtaining these pieces of information that you want to stay in touch with them. It might just be as simple as, hey, I want to stay in touch with you. What's your phone number? I mean, yeah, you'll get some rejection. It'll be, if you don't like rejection, you got to get over yourself. You got to get over it. You're going to get some rejection. Maybe come up with a little bit better pitch so you don't get as much rejection, but you will. But when you have their phone number and you maybe just hold an open house, you follow up with them. And the text messages are great. Phone calls are very great as well. Number one, if they answer the phone. And number two, if they have time to actually talk to you on the phone. Now, I know when I'm talking on the phone a lot of times, if somebody calls me, you're interrupting their day with a phone call. So when you pick up the phone and call them, they might be picking their kids up from school or dropping them off or grocery shopping, or they might be at work or any of these things. So that you're interrupting their day almost always. There's never really a good time to call, because even if it's in their leisurely hours, you're maybe interrupting their dinner, you're interrupting their lunch, or you're interrupting their TV time or their reading time or their exercise time or whatever it is they're doing. You're always going to be interrupting somebody's life. No one's sitting in front of the phone just watching it hoping you're going to call them or hoping somebody's going to call them. I mean, unless you're a business, but those aren't the people you want to talk to. You want to talk to potential clients, consumers. So the phone call, yes, it does work if you time it right, you have a good enough script, a good enough pitch, but the text message side of things now, the text messages are permanent. The phone call, that's only going to last as long as you're on the phone with them. And then once you're off the phone, yes, they'll see you in their call log, but I mean, they might not even remember. If they don't have your number saved in there, they're just going to see some random number. I'm like, who was that called me at this time? And they might not even remember who it was. The text messages, on the other hand, and I'm a person, now this is just me, I don't go through and delete any of my text messages, except for on accident sometimes where I accidentally hit delete. But, I mean, I have an iPhone that's got, I think, more memory than my computer in it. So, I mean, what do I need to delete text messages for? I like to save all my messages. If I ever want to go back and talk to somebody, I know what we were talking about before. And that's great on the business side of things, because you could follow up and stay in touch with these people based on your previous conversation. So again, going back to my open house scenario, maybe you send them a text message and you say, hey, so glad you came to my open house today. It was great meeting you and your husband, Jeff, and blah, 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 blah. Can I have some honest feedback about the house? And maybe you do something like that just to get a conversation going with them. Because if you go in for the kill right away and you say, hey, thanks for coming out to my open house. You ready to buy a house yet? And maybe you'll even see the read receipt where it says read. And you're like, what? They just aired my text? They didn't respond to it? Of course they're not going to respond to it if you're trying to go in for the kill shot right off the bat, saying, hey, you ready to buy a house? You're going to look like a crazy person. You want to look like a genuine, real person that cares about them. And you maybe start a discussion, asking just some feedback about the open house. Even if you don't care about the feedback from the open house, get feedback because you're getting a better idea of who they are. You're talking to them and you're saying, hey, give me some feedback about this house, what it is that you liked, what it is that you didn't like. My seller is begging me for some answers on this, or I'm trying to get a feel for this to maybe adjust the value of the property. Do you think it was overpriced? Whatever questions it is that you'd ask. Really, you want to try to ask open-ended questions to stimulate a conversation other than yes-no stuff. If you just say, hey, do you think that house was overpriced? And they say yes, I mean, what do you have to go off of there? Yeah, that was definitely overpriced. But if they say, oh, we really liked the open floor plan, but that wouldn't work for us because we have kids and they only had 3 bedrooms, so we're really looking for like 4 or 5 bedrooms, probably 5 ideally. You're getting information on these people. Now, the great part about it being in a text message is you don't have to be scribbling down notes that you're probably not going to be able to read after the phone call. And yeah, sometimes with people, they don't text, but I mean, we live in a pretty tech-savvy world today. My grandma, she's like, I won't tell you how old she is, but you can imagine grandmas, they're out there texting. And I was surprised when she started texting, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Grandma's on the text messages now. But it's such an easy effortless way to communicate. You have a way to kind of prepare and plan your responses to what people are saying. So it's really something that you want to utilize. And the best part is you may be interrupting their day when they get that text message, but a lot of times I'll be doing something and I can't respond to a text right away, and I won't even look at the text right then. I'll see I have a text message, and maybe if it's from a random number, I'll look at it, and maybe then I'll go back and say, oh, I don't know who that is, or I'll forget about it, or something along those lines. But a lot of times you'll end up getting a response from them in a timely manner on their terms. So it's a very easy way to communicate. And now you have all that. You have the records of everything it is that they said to you about maybe what they liked about that property or something along those lines. So it's a great way to get know your clients. And then once you've kind of appeared as a person more to them rather than just a salesperson or a business, then you could actually go in now and maybe kind of segue a little bit more into the business side of things. And you're like, John, that's so much work. Why do I have to put in this much work talking to them? I just want to sell the house. If they're not ready to buy a house yet, then whatever. I don't even want to deal with them. I mean, and that's fine. Yeah, you could be more focused on money today, which there's definitely an argument for that, to be focused on your money today, because you got to get the money today right if you want to worry about the money tomorrow. You got to have the money today before you worry about the money tomorrow. But all this stuff that we're talking about here, this is a way of building business down the road, and you want to continue to follow up and stay in touch with them. And this is why I like the text message stuff. And you could really kind of plan your questions and your responses in a way that stimulates conversation. And it's not something where they could say, oh, I'm not really interested in that. I mean, when you send a text message, you're able to get your whole message out like that. If you pick up the phone and say, hey, it's John Chrismo from this weekend you were at my open house. Oh, you know what? We already have a realtor. We're already thinking about buying a house, and we're not thinking about it. I don't want to talk right now. They'll automatically go into that defense mode. The text messages are great because you could send your whole message. Hey, it's John Chrismo from Exit Realty, and you came out to my open house this weekend. Thank you guys so much for coming, but I really wanted to get some feedback from my sellers. Can you tell me what you thought of the property? Your honest feedback is greatly appreciated. Something along those lines, and now you're stimulating a conversation with them. You're getting to know them, and this is great for building the relationship. The turn a contact into a contract, you need to have the R. The R is the relationship. That R is what's going to turn that contact into a contract. Because if you don't ever take time to nurture that contact, especially when they're a cold lead like this, they're never going to turn into a contract for you. You might get lucky right there if you're talking to them right there face to face or on the phone, or you're doing cold calling or something like that. And if they're ready now, you might get their business. But if you don't, and you don't follow up with them, you're not going to get their business. I can guarantee you that. There's not going to be anyone that remembers you 5 years from now off of one phone call you had 5 years ago. That's not going to happen. But if you follow up, if you're sending out text messages, if you're sending out emails, and you're staying in touch with people, that's really going to do wonders for your follow-up strategy. So that's the text message and phone side of thing. And yes, you could adapt these things for phones. And the phone call stuff, I mean, again, with all this stuff, you want to make sure you're not violating any telemarketing laws or any of the rules that they have along text messages and things like that. But a lot of those things are on a reporting basis. So if people are finding what you're saying to them is effective and it's useful and they're enjoying the conversation, they're not going to say, hey, I've really enjoyed talking to you, but what you're doing is technically illegal, so I have to report you. It could happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. Again, you could get in trouble for this in theory. But if people like what it is that you're saying, they're not going to care that you're calling them despite them being on the do not call list or anything like that. Don't call them if they're not on the do not call list. But if you do have an opportunity to call them when you have a business inquiry, you can call them for 90 days. And you're not in violation of any laws. You're not in violation of any telemarketing laws if you have an inquiry for 90 days. Now, once those 90 days are up, you're back in the red area. But for 90 days after an inquiry, you're free to do as much calling or whatever it is that you want, as long as you follow all the other do not call list rules and whatnot. So that's the phone, that's the text messages. Those are great ways to utilize in your business. And yes, there are ways to automate this stuff, but the key thing with these is, since they're such a personal method of communication, people expect it to be personal as well. Now, we're going to take one more break here, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about our last two ways that I have. And really, this isn't the only other two ways. There's other ways to market as well, but two major ways that I also think you should be doing. It's social media and direct mail. Now, these, again, we're going back to the more businessy side of things, the more business type of approach, but it's definitely something you want to implement in your business. We're going to talk about a couple quick ways to make sure that you're utilizing those to the best of your ability. So stay with us. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching State of Real Estate.
When you look back on your real estate career, You'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life.
You'll find in the description for this video.
Successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to State of Real Estate. I'm John Kursmo, and the show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We do the show every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time to help you grow, enhance, and jumpstart your real estate business. And today we've had a great episode. I've really enjoyed this, talking about how to build your client base, which is such an essential key role to have in building a real estate business, not just a real estate career, but a real estate business. Like I said, you have the career side where you're working in your business, and you have the business side where you're working on building that business, automating things, and making this to make your job a little bit easier, but also to increase income as well. So that's essentially what we're doing here with this client base. When we're out there prospecting, you might hit gold and lightning strike or whatever you want to call it, where you get business right there. But a lot of times, most of the time, people are going to be saying, hey, look, I'm not ready to buy or sell a house yet, but I'll call you when I am. And that's a great opportunity to add them to your client database. Get their phone number, get their name, get their email, and get some notes on them so you can kind of have an idea of who they are, because this is a people business. And whether it's you doing this or you having somebody employed that's on your team that's out there doing this marketing and prospecting, or even if this is happening digitally, it has to be done where you're following up with these people. Don't expect every client to want to do business with you today. Clients are going to want to do business down the road. We talked about email, which is the most automatic and probably one of the easiest ones to implement, and it gives you a lot of tracking insights. So you definitely want to add that into your repertoire. We talked about text messages and phone calls, which are huge. They have such a larger impact, but they are more emphasis on the time side of things, because they do require a little bit more personalized connection to be most effective. But the last ones we're talking about here, this is going to help you again on more the automatic side of things, and this is social media and direct mail. So let's talk about social media first off, and how you can stay in touch with them there. If you met somebody, go add them on Facebook, add them on Instagram, find out maybe what in social media it is that they like. Everyone's on a social media platform. I told you about how my grandma's texting. Well, she's also on Facebook. I think she might even have an Instagram now as well. So everybody has social media profiles now. And yes, again, this is a more personalized space and whatnot, but if you're putting out genuine content that people want to see, and you know, if you're on Facebook or even Twitter now has the algorithms where they kind of judge your content and decide whether or not it's worthy and it's relatable to this person. So they'll figure out that for you. If you don't have good content, they're not going to show it to your friends or your fans of your page or anything like that. But I would go out, get their name, make sure you have their name, and find out and say, hey, you mind if I follow you on Instagram, or maybe have some sort of topic about that, or you can work that in somehow where you can find out this information as well, so you can start building your client base. Because not only do you want to have them in your email database, not only do you want to have them in whatever way it is you're doing to remember to text people and make out phone calls, whether that's you're doing the old-fashioned way by having the 30-day little folders where you have the 1 through 30 for different folders, and you have different client files in each one. That's the old school way of doing this. A lot of tools now with CRMs that allow you to stay in touch with people as well, so you get more digital with this. But I mean, you don't need to invest a huge amount of money. If it is something you're going to be useful, a lot of these systems I see, people aren't using them to their fullest abilities, and it's not worth it at all if you're not using it to the fullest ability. So if you're going to use one of these systems to its fullest ability, that's great, but take advantage of something where you could kind of manage the text messages and phone calls. You also want to have them in your social database. Your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your Snapchat, your, what else is, all these other little social media networks that kind of pop up, that come and go. Facebook, I mean, they've kind of proved that they're here to stay. Hopefully that stays true. But if not, I mean, a lot of you guys are here watching on Facebook. Thank you guys all for tuning in today. But, I mean, whatever network it is. And again, there's not just one best answer for this. Yeah, Facebook is great, but not everyone's on Facebook. Not everybody uses Facebook. Some people like Twitter more. There's people that are only on Instagram. There's people that are only on Snapchat, or maybe they have all of them, but which one is it that they use the most? And that's something you find out, so you can kind of get them all in these different networks, and you add them, and now you have a way to stay in touch with them as well. So ultimately, they should be getting your emails, and those, like I said, maybe every week or every other week, or at least once a month, at the very least once a month. If you're doing anything less than once a month, I mean, you might as well not be sending out any emails at all. The text messages and the phone calls, this is, again, it takes a little bit more of a personalized thing, but even after you have the initial conversation with them to get to know them, you want to continue to follow up with them. Maybe you find out that they have kids or they have a dog, and you say, hey, how's Fido doing? Is Fido doing all right? Oh, no, Fido passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's bringing a tear to my eye. And, you know, I'm kind of tearing up because I like dogs. But, yeah, I mean, you don't want to be fake with this because people pick up on the fakeness. But, and notice I didn't ask about their kids. I'm not the biggest fan of kids. I know I'll get a lot of flack for that. But it is what it is. You have to take what makes you genuine and personal and put that out there in the world. And even if you're an introverted person, if you're passionate about something, I guarantee you're able to disseminate that information very easily. And if maybe you don't like talking face-to-face or on the phone, maybe you're doing text messages or emails or social media posts or whatever it is that you want to do. But you definitely want to have a combined strategy of multiple different fronts to get in front of these people. I also want to talk about direct mail, because that's another way, especially if you have their address. I mean, yeah, it's just another way, because the direct mail alone, yes, it is very effective. You have to spend a lot of money and a lot of there's a big time investment. Because just like with a lot of stuff, any of these ones that you're using, it's not going to relate to instant results today, maybe down the road, but maybe not something today. But you want to, again, be consistent with this. And now the direct mail, that is more costly. So, again, with this, I would recommend at the very least once a month. Maybe once every 2 weeks. If you really got a lot of money to spend and you really want to make sure they know who you are, that's maybe where you send it once a week. But I would say probably twice a week would be efficient for that, especially if you're spending larger amounts of money for this. And again, you want to vary it as what you're sending out. Don't keep sending the same thing. I don't care which one of these it is. Don't say the same thing. I mean, you'll see these little like posts online about people where they'll keep texting somebody who doesn't respond to them, and they'll just go, hey. A month later. Hey. If you do that to your clients, number one, they're going to get creeped out for you. They're going to be like, whoa, what is this person? I'm going to block this person, because you could do that now with text messages. You could block them. Apple's adapting to this being a time now where we're getting more marketing in text messages, so they add that ability to block people. So don't just expect to keep saying, hey. Maybe you'll get a response, but it's probably not the response you want. They're probably like, hey, how about you stop talking to me? How about you stop texting me? So don't do that. Have something genuine. Have something interesting. If you're going to interrupt somebody's day, you better have something worth interrupting it with. You better be entertaining. You better be funny. You better be relatable. You better be genuine. All these different aspects. And that relates for email, text messages, phone calls, social media, and direct mail. And with the direct mail stuff, I mean, yeah, you could go a bunch of different ways with this, but I wouldn't invest too much money in each mail piece. I'd maybe send out like a postcard here and there, because ultimately with that, you're just trying to get another impression. And if you're matching this up with your strategy of also sending them emails and also texting them every now and then, also maybe even giving them a call. Even if you're texting them on a regular basis, maybe you give them a call. Hey, I just want to hear the sound of your voice and see how you guys are doing. I know it's been a while since we've talked. And if you're and the times in between those bigger phone calls, you maybe send out text messages every now, just so they kind of continue to know who it is that you are. Ultimately, you're building a relationship with these people. And if you're a very well-loved and a very well-liked person, they'll tell other people about you. They're like, oh yeah, you know, John's the best realtor in the world. Like, you know, we talk all the time, and you know, he knows everything there is to know about real estate. And they'll be saying all these great things about you if you have a great relationship with them. If you don't have a relationship, if you're just bombarding them with marketing over and over and over and over and over again, and you don't have anything personalized, if this is your farm area that you're marketing to, every now and then in your farm area, go door knocking. Like, hey, I'm the guy you're sending that's been sending you all these postcards. Have you seen any of them? Oh, no, you haven't? Yeah, I would usually throw them out as well. And you can have some common relatable ground there. But you're just like, hey, I just want to introduce myself, just so you have a face to put to the name, and I am a real person. I'm not just a face on a postcard or whatever it is that you want to do to kind of spin that. But again, the key thing here with this building your client base is to show you're a genuine person. Even if you're a larger team, Even if you have 10 agents working on your team, I mean, who's going to be the spokesperson? Who's going to be the face of this? Who's going to be the person it is that are remembering it? It's you, that's great, but if maybe you're designated to somebody else because, maybe they're prettier, better looking, or more handsome than you, yeah, that might be a better option as well to have something like that. But you got to have something where you're staying in contact, where they know that you're a person. Even if you're a larger business, you want to have that almost personal brand to this, especially in the real estate industry. So that's all I got for you guys today on building your client base. Hopefully you're able to take some of this stuff away from it. If anything, go out there today, invest in, and when I say invest, it's really just an investment of your time, because like I said, you get started with a lot of these email providers, the MailChimps, the Webbers, the iContacts, the Constant Contacts. Find one that you're going to like. I mean, they're all can do the most of the same things for the most part, or maybe find one that fits within your budget and go in there and get something like that set up. That's something that you want to have. Whenever you have downtime where you're not prospecting, you're not meeting with clients, this is where you want to work on building your business. But this is only after you've done some prospecting, after you met with some clients. If you don't have any clients to meet with, get out there and do some prospecting and get some names and some emails for you to put in this email list. Don't worry about making the list and all the emails that you send out perfect. That'll come in time. Get the list, get the audience. That's how Facebook was built. Facebook was built on getting the audience. Facebook wasn't what it was today 10 years ago, or however many years ago it was that they launched. I think we're like 12 or 13 years ago now. They weren't like what they are today. They weren't perfect. But, they started off and they were focused on getting an audience before they even did any marketing to the people and any advertising. You see Facebook ads all the time now. But when they first started out, they didn't have any of that because they were building up the audience. That's what you need to do as well. Build up your audience and then worry about monetizing that and worry about working in stuff. You want to come across as the genuine person, but then once they know you're a genuine person, that's where you kind of start to segue into, hey, I'm also a genuine business person as well. You know me personally, and you know how great of a person I am and how honest and ethical I am, but you also know now that I'm a real estate professional. I treat my business the same way I treat my personal life. That's the type of impression you want to have coming across on your clients. So that's my takeaway for you guys today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this State of Real Estate, and remember to tune in next Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, for another episode of another great topic to help you grow, enhance, and jumpstart your real estate business. Until then, I'll see you next Friday. Have a good weekend.